Mother crystals. Basic information. Enormous glassy mountains, 5 of which tower over the lands of Valdesea. They are the source of all the crystals that the people of the Twins rely on in their everyday lives. Not only that, but the lands surrounding them are rich with ether, making the magics the crystals cast even more potent. For these reasons, great nations have sprung around each mother crystal and have long warred with each other for possession of their blessings. The attacks on the land. Though the people of Valdesea rely on the crystal mined from these mountains in everyday lives, and flock to the ether-rich lands around them in pursuit of their blessings, Cid's poised that it is, in fact, the mother crystals and their ability to draw ether from the earth that is the reason for the dead land's advance. The few who learn the truth are hunted down by those in positions of power. Those who use power rest their control on this crucial resource. Their true purpose. Enormous glassy mountains that once towered over the lands of Valdesea, providing the crystals that the people of the Twins relied upon in their everyday lives, while at the same time leeching ether from the earth. Clive and Joshua learned that they were planted here by Ultima for that very purpose, that the creature might accumulate enough ether to cast a supremely powerful spell, one that would remake the world. The heart of the mother crystal. Basic information. The brightly shining convolution of the shards that sits at the center of each mother crystal. When a heart shatters, so too does the mountain around it. Since the time immemorial sanctuaries have been built around the hearts of the worship and protection of these irreplaceable treasures. A stalwart defense. The bright convolution of shards that sits at the center of each mother crystal. When a heart shatters, so too does the mountain around it. Since time immemorial, sanctuaries have been built around the hearts for the worship and protection of these irreplaceable treasures. The hearts, however, have their own methods of self-defense, replying to any attack upon them with unique and deadly magics. The Lost Mother Crystals. When Sodalphus Telamon put his plans to destroy the Mother Crystals in motion, 5 of their number tower over the Twins. 3 less than existed eons past. The Mother Crystal of the Desimex was the first to fall, followed by Drake's Horn in southern Nash, and Drake's Eye in the northern territories. Now nothing remains of them, save for the scars left behind by their passing. The Crystal Flower. When Drake's tail came under attack by a maddened Bahamut, the heart of the Mother Crystal responded by delving into its attacker's innermost thoughts and summoning into creation that which most plagued his tortured soul, the Wyvern Tail, that represented the trust Prince Dion's father placed in him and his duty to the realm. The Inner Sanctum. Basic information. Scarce chambers in which the hearts of the Mother Crystals are enshrined, believed to have been created before the time of the Fallen, they retain a punctuous air even now, long after mankind has forgotten their significance. Hidden Truths. Sacred chambers in which the hearts of the Mother Crystals are enshrined, erected far before the time of the Fallen, when humanity was still in its infancy. Their original purpose was to simply provide protection for the fragile cores. As time passed, however, they were slowly transformed into places of worship. Deadlands. Basic information. Barren waste, bereft of ether, where no life stirs, and magic is all but unusable. Here, both earth and water are stained black, preventing any seed from quickening. In recent years, the blight has spread even more widely, displacing whole nations before it, driving once peaceable fauna to violent desperation and leaving silent devastation in its wake. Hidden Truths. Barren waste that, when ether has dried up entirely, no longer gives the land life. Not only does this render magic all but unusable, but the ground and water also stained darkest black. Not even the smallest seedling grows. Little to the knowledge of most Valentines, the spreading blight is in fact driven by the mother crystals that drain away the land's ether from Ultima's ends. Though the beings flew to Valisea to escape the blight, a overuse of magic by the human civilization that followed only succeeded in despoiling this land's unblemished land. Ether floods. Pools of concentrated ether that form on the land's surface, thought to be caused by an imbalance in its diffusion beneath. Though ether is usually invisible at flood level concentrations, it takes on a blue glow. Those with a natural ethereal tolerance can survive exposure to a flood, at least for a short time, but most living things will eventually succumb to its effects, losing their minds and turning akashic. Ethereal tolerance. The ability to resist the effects of ethereal exposure. This is higher in bearers and dominants, allowing them to survive concentrations of ether that would turn any human who lack their gifts. Some animals, including chocobos, have natural resistance to the effect of ether, but one of the many reasons why the birds are so beloved across Twinside. Ether. The life force of the land and which source of all magic. The amount of ether a spell consumes depends on its strength, with those manifesting more potent forces over a wider area coming at great cost. Larger crystals can channel more ether than smaller ones, and thus can be used to cast more powerful magics. One might use a small ration shard to grill a fish, but will require a large municipal crystal to fire a blacksmith forge. Municipal shards. Large shards of crystal that are entrusted to towns and cities across Valisea in order to serve the populace, but those shards rationed out to individuals might suffice to fill a cup or light an oven. Municipal shards fill wells, fire forges, and light the streets of the great cities of the Twins. Crystal rations. Shards of crystal small enough to be held in the hand which allow those who are not born bearers to cast magics. The nations of the Twins see such shards mined from the mother crystal and distributed to the populace, so that every man and woman of God's character, bearers, criminals, and other undesirables not included, might enjoy the gift of magic. It is common for people to keep them about their persons in a protective case. Crystal. Basic information. One of the most valuable materials known to mankind, thanks to its ability to channel ambient ether from the air, allowing those without an initiate power to do so to cast magics, and as most Valentines cannot live without magic, its supplies and distribution is heavily regulated by governments across the Twins. A given shard can only channel a certain amount of ether before it shatters, so that the need for new crystals is instant. The black market. One of the most valuable materials known to mankind, thanks to its ability to channel ambient ether from the air, allowing those without an initiate power to do so to cast magic. And as most Valentines cannot live without magic, its supply and distribution is heavily regulated by governments across the Twins. Though the penalties for illicit trade in crystals are severe, with demand far outstripping supply, many still dabble in the black market. Post-primogenesis. One of the most valuable materials known to mankind, thanks to its ability to channel ambient ether from the air, allowing those without initiate power to do so to cast magics. After Ultima cast primogenesis in the skies over Valdis darkened, many of the miserable crystals that fire forges and filled wells began to fail. In certain areas, even those ration shards that the people relied on in their everyday lives lost their spark, making life all but unlivable. Magic. Basic information. The art of channeling ether to make one's imagination manifest. This can take the aspect of one of the 8 elements: fire, water, wind, earth, ice, thunder, light, and dark, or more rarely, be unexpected. While bearers and dominants can cast spells at will, others require a crystal to do so. Magic is part of everyday life for the people of Valisea, making it all but unlivable when they are deprived of its gift. Channeling. The art of channeling ether to make one's imagination manifest. Bearers of Dynamis can cast magic without a crystal, but this comes at cost. Relative to the amount of ether channeled, the crystal's curse that petrifies their flesh. For this reason, Ultima's incorporeal form prevents him from casting the supremely powerful spell which he means to remake the world, and so he seeks a vessel strong enough to withstand the torrents of ether required. The crystal's curse. The price bearers of Dynamis pay for channeling ether throughout their bodies. The gradual petrification of their flesh. It does not affect those who use a crystal to cast magics. Beginning with a stiffness and ache in the extremities as the curse progresses, limbs are rendered immobile and pain unbearable. At last, the victim turns completely to stone and their body crumbles into dust. There is no known cure. The magic barriers. Some dominants have the ability to call upon a part of their icon's power to summon a ward, a nigh-impressive barrier that no magic nor matter can cross. However, its maintenance requires a continuous channeling of ether throughout the summoner's flesh, taking a heavy toll upon them. The larger the barrier, the greater the burden. Glazing Wall. A vast ethereal dome created by King Barnabas Thalmor using the power of the icon Odin. It is not only capable of repelling assault, both corporal and magical, but will also consume any who might endeavor across its bounds. Spanning from the mining settlement of Hysteria in the south to Fisher's Calm in the north, the barrier effectively blocks any approach to the Valuta capital Stonehenge for the hundreds of leagues. First Shield. Title granted to the mightiest and most stalwart shield of the Rosarian army. The first shield is entrusted with the personal protection of the dominant of the Phoenix, and is gifted a portion of the icon's power over flame, a boon known as the Blessing of the Phoenix. The Blessing of the Phoenix. The boon Joshua bestowed upon his brother upon Clive's ordination as first shield, allowing him to wield fire aspect magic without a crystal. It has long been customary in Rosaria for the dominant of the Phoenix to share a part of their power in this way, performing this rite of rejuvenation upon those they appoint as their protectors that they might serve them the better. Dominant. Basic information. Those within whom sleeps the power of an icon. Though they look and think no different to any other man or woman, they cannot only cast elemental magics without a crystal, but also transform themselves into a beast of world-shattering strength at any moment, a quality for which they are honored, worshipped, and feared the realm over. Awakening. Those within whom sleeps the power of an icon. Though they look and think no different to any other man or woman, they can not only cast elemental magics without a crystal, but also transform themselves into a beast of a world-shattering strength at any moment. There is only ever one dominant for each icon. A new dominant only awaken after the previous dies. Some awaken at birth, while others are chosen later in life. But once one is chosen, one's life changes forever. Hidden truths. Those within whom sleeps the power of an icon. The dominants are but a stepping stone in the creation of Ultima's perfect vessel, Muthos. When Ultima sowed the seeds of humanity and imbued those assigned to protect each mother crystal with an elemental affinity, a power that would amplify over the generations until the icons eventually emerged. Though the memory of their power remains even after it is absorbed into Muthos, it takes an increasing toll upon their persons to summon it. Icon. Basic information. Magical beings of godlike strength who dwell within human hosts, known as dominants, only emerging when the dominant prime's history records 8 icons in total, each with a unique element affinity. It is commonly held that 2 icons of the same element cannot coexist, but as none has ever witnessed all these rare creatures together, the conjunction is yet to be proven. Elemental aspect. Magical beings of godlike strength who dwell within human hosts, known as dominants, only emerging when the dominant primes. History records 8 icons in total, each with a unique element affinity, 1 warden of each. of fire, water, thunder, ice, wind, earth, light, and darkness. The common belief that two icons of the same element cannot coexist was shaken by the appearance of a second icon of fire in the Imperial attack on Phoenix Gate. Hidden truths. Shattered aspects of Ultima's power given flesh by human hosts. It is the two waters of fire, Phoenix and Ifrit, who together comprise his perfect form, the icons of the lesser elements, serving as sacrifices to Muthos' altar in order to test and bolster the vessel's strength. Priming. Basic information. The act of a dominant transforming their living flesh into that of their icon. Dominants most often prime during times of war, using the immense strength of their icons to turn the tides of battle. Though it is usually done deliberately, the dominant remaining in the control of the icon even when primed. On occasion, a dominant will lose control of their powers and see their icon run riot. The icon's toll. The act of a dominant transforming their living flesh into that of their icon. Priming does not require a continued draw on the ether. It is rather maintained by the constant channeling of the vast quantities of ether imbued within the dominant's own body. This allows dominants to remain primed even when they enter the etherless deadlands, but also results in the crystal's curse taking a heavy toll on them with every act of priming. Semi-priming. The act of a dominant casting a spell upon part of their icon's power without fully transforming into the legendary beast itself. It does not require nearly as much ether as to fully prime, taking less of a toll on the dominant's flesh. Upon semi-priming, the host takes on some aspects of their icon, sprouting wings or becoming clad in stone. A bearer. Basic information. A person with the power to cast magic without a crystal. In Valisthi, men and women who awaken as bearers are enslaved. They are marked with a brand upon their cheek and cursed as a tools, a cheaper alternative to the scarce and precious shards. This system of slavery has persisted for centuries and has become so ingrained in Valistine life that few take pity upon the bearer's plight, seeing them as less than human. A cursed fate. A person with the power to cast magic without a crystal in Valisthi. Men and women who awaken as bearers are enslaved, branded with a mark on their cheek that leads some to call them by the pejorative moniker branded. Though their powers do not begin to approach those of an almighty dominance, they too suffer from the crystal's curse, gradually turning into stone after a lifetime of channeling ether for others. Branded soldier. A bearer forced to fight for the nations that enslaved them, able to cast powerful magics yet entirely disposable. They are often placed on the front lines in battle or assigned to highly dangerous scouting or assassination missions. An inescapable fate. Bearers forced to fight for the nations that enslaved them, to stymie the urge to flee. The penalty for desertion is death, and soldiers are encouraged to keep a close watch on each other to prevent others from doing so. The brand upon a soldier's cheek presenting an additional obstacle, and so most follow their orders, turning steadily to stone with each draw on the ether, to lose one's life to the curse being lauded as a hero's death. The liberation of bearers. That which Sid and his allies strive to do, save bearers from slavery. To this end, they gather information about masters who mistreat their property, that they might focus the rescue efforts on the most in need. Freed bearers are fought back to the safety of the hideaway, and though many are unsure what to do with their newfound freedom, the combination of a warm welcome, warm food, and a warm bed helps to calm their cares. Slave masters. Those who own and manage bearers' slaves. A bearer must always obey the orders of his or her master and are largely forbidden from acting independently, even from speaking without express permission. When it is necessary to relinquish supervision of a bearer, such as when dispatching one on an errand, masters will often affix the emblem of their house or business to the slave's clothing, that they are not mistaken for an escapee. The unbranded. Most bearers are identified soon after birth and are marked with the slave brand, but a fortunate few are not and remain unbranded. An unbranded bearer can live like any other man or woman as long as their knack for magic remains a close guarded secret. Should it be revealed, however, they are denounced as liars and impostors and dealt the severest punishment. Branded. A common pejorative term for bearers marked with the brand. Newborn babies are tested at birth, and those found to have the knack are branded on the cheek and taken into custody of the state. Brand removal. The painstaking process of slicing away the bearer's brand so that no mark remains. Tadia, the hideaway's physicker, has mastered the procedure, though it still entails a good deal of pain and a risk of, indeed, the brand is written in poison ink that might attempt to remove it should result in death. Given this, many choose to forgo the process, even though their brand precludes them from ever leaving the hideaway. Brand. The brand applied to the cheek of bearers, identifying them as something other than human. The great nations of Valisthi have a long-standing accord to brand their bearers in this way, that the slaves might be traded across borders. Selection. The mark applied to the cheek of bearers across Valisthi, identifying them as something other than human. Newborn babies are checked at birth, those who are found to be bearers being branded and taken into custody of the state. Rarely bearers evade this test either, because their parents hide them. The testers are lax in their duties or their powers do not awaken until years later, yet most do not remain unbranded for long. The Fallen. Basic information. An ancient city yet highly advanced civilization whose relics can be found across the length and breadth of Valisthi. The material from which these relics are constructed is far sturdier than steel and cannot be worked by a modern method, so the people of the modern day have elected to build inside and around them instead. Ruins everlasting. An ancient yet highly advanced civilization whose relics said to be the remains of airships that once soared through the skies can be found across the length and breadth of Valisthi. This hideaway is but one of many settlements to take a fallen ruin as its foundation, taking advantage of the sturdiness of the ceramics, which are stronger than steel. They are not, however, immune to the passage of time, and so the hideaway is in need of constant repairs. Hidden truths. An ancient civilization that thrived some thousands of years before the present day. Though no direct records of the fallen remain, early legends in the modern court speak of them as the main of Magitech, the pinnacle of whose magical technology was the airship. Enormous cities that soared through the skies. Comparisons of the ruins of these airships and other ancient structures connected to Ultima reveal slight but marked differences, suggesting that the former is but a close copy of the latter. Alas, it seems that pursuit of Ultima's most closely guarded secrets led to their downfall when they sent their fleet against Desamekis and ushered in the tragedy that saw their civilization fall. Airship. Basic information. Legend has it that the people of the Fallen once sailed through the skies in the bellies of these ships. Though all now lies shrouded and silent on the surface below, the town of Lostwing is built around such a ruin. Clive's Hideaway. Legend has it that the people of the Fallen once sailed through the skies in the bellies of these ships. Though all now lies shrouded and silent on the surface below, the men and women of the present day are wont to repurpose these ruins for their own use. Both the village of Lostwing and Clive's Hideaway in Branimir being built around the wreckage of a fallen airship. Hidden truths. Legend has it that the people of the Fallen once sailed through the skies in the bellies of these ships, though all now lie shrouded and silent on the surface below. The Invisible, in which Clive and his allies have built their new hideaway, being one such relic. So advanced was the Fallen's technology, it was nigh indistinguishable from magic, leading a historian of the early modern era to remember them as the main of Magitech, or men of magical technology. It is men's dream to bring that technology back to life, that humanity might take flight once more. Magitech, a term that appears in the early histories of the fallen civilization and describes their highly advanced magical technology, of which the airship is the best known example. They also produce weapons all but indistinguishable from living beings, yet those destructive powers rivaled that of the gods of legend. The early chroniclers labeled these beasts the Iconlastes, and it is from this term that the icons of the present day take their moniker. The Ultima Civilization, the ancient civilization of the godlike Ultima Collective. The discovery of magic helped them to thrive, but came at a terrible cost. The onset of the Blight. After the cities fell and their people perished, the few survivors fled to the untouched land of Valisthi to lay the groundwork for their future revival. The Apothecary, beneath Phoenix Gate, and the Tower of Revere in Waloed are both relics of their civilization and far predate those of the fallen. Alder Daystone. Basic information. A mysterious chromatic tablet that stands in the hideaway of a similar construction to other relics of the fallen, yet seemingly not part of the airship proper. Its imposing appearance suggests some important function that has been lost to time. Whatever strange secrets lie within it seems to react to Clive's presence and urges him to unlock his hidden potential. Hidden Truths. A mysterious chromatic tablet that stands in the hideaway. Though it closely resembles a relic of the fallen, the way in which it reacts to Clive's presence and urges him to unlock his hidden potential suggests that connection to Ultima. It is likely that this stone, as well as other towers of similar construction that dot the landscape, were created by the creature before he entered his slumber in order to aid in the perfection of his vessel, Muthos. Obsolete. Basic information. Ancient relics found across Valisthi. Their construction closely resembled the airships of the fallen, but unlike them, they do not appear to have fallen from the sky, rather to have stood in place since the time immemorial. They illuminate when Clive approaches, though for what reason it is unknown. After once being lit, they continue to shine with the same blue glow night and day, making them ideal for use as waypoints. Hidden Truths. Ancient technology of Ultima Collective, set in place upon the Advent to Valisthi in order to guide the flow of ether toward the Mother Crystal, that the land's life force might be harvested all the more readily. The Absolutes are separate entities to the Mother Crystal themselves, so the latter's destruction does not affect the former's function. After Ultima cast Primogenesis, the resulting imbalance in the ether made these obelisks glow all the brighter. The Continental Accord, an international pact made at the dawn of the present era, in which such matters as the treatment of bearers and the establishment of a realm-wide currency were laid out. It formed the base of much of Valisthi society as it stands, including the branding of the bearer and the status as non-persons. It also put into place a universal calendar, making a symbolic fresh start for mankind, albeit one which put magic users at a crippling disadvantage. The Valisthi calendar, the dating system used throughout the Twins, which marks the years of the realm that have passed since the signing of the Continental Accord some 800 years ago. In the centuries since, nations have risen and fallen, and the concord between them has faltered, but the calendars persist. Gil. Gil has been the common currency of Valisthi ever since the signing of the Continental Accord many centuries ago. The Accord entrusted the administration of the currency to the realm's most trusted merchant guild, headquartered in what later became the Free Cities of Canva. The new currency took its name from the founder of said merchant guild, the Lurchan trader Gilbert the Golden. Trade flourished around the newly established mint, and over time the worship of money grew into a full-fledged religion, the Great Bank of Gilbert, the lender. The Rosarian National Anthem, perhaps the most beloved ditty in the duchy. The Rosarian national anthem was written for the occasion of new nation's founding, and is filled with patriotic imagery of rolling meadows, rising flames, and stirring song. It was often heard raising the rafters of docile alehouses, particularly close to closing time, where disputes over the lyrics to the less practiced third verse would occasionally end in fisticuffs. The children of Desamekis. The tribe who once dwelled in the land surrounding the lost mother crystal of Desamekis. This mother crystal communicated directly with Origin, from whence Ultima kept watch on the world from his slumber. So, those people who lived around it had a closer relationship with their creator than most. It was they who founded the Circle of Malice, to keep the word of their Lord and future Savior alive after the tragedy of Desamekis, the first fall of humanity. The few survivors of the children of Desamekis fled to the outer continent, where they continued to worship their god and await the day when they would join him in paradise. Frost Wolf, a rare breed of wolf from the frozen northern territories that is said to be able to conjure magics. In an ancient fable from the region prominently features a frost wolf by the name of Fenrir, who was companion to the Queen of Snows, most likely an allusion to the dominant of Shiva, and defended her not with tooth and claw, but with bolts of ice. Akashic. Basic information. The irreversible change brought about a living being's overexposure to ether. Creatures are stripped of an intelligence or sense of self they may once have had, and become suffused with life force, usually manifesting as extreme strength and aggression. Flora can also turn, resulting in their twisted overgrowth. Those with ethereal tolerance, however, such as a dominant bearers, are less likely to turn Akashic. Divinity. The irreversible change brought about a living being's overexposure to ether. Creatures are stripped of any intelligence or sense of self they may once have had, and become suffused with life force, usually manifesting as extreme strength and aggression. Though most regard men who turn Akashic as naught but mindless monsters, Barnabas and Splinter claim that they are in fact divine. Hidden truths. The irreversible change brought about a living being's overexposure to ether. Creatures are stripped of any intelligence or sense of self they may have once have had, and become suffused with life force, usually manifesting as an extreme strength and aggression. Ultima's casting of Primogenesis turned much of mankind, directly gifting Barnabas his Akashic army. With the despair they wrought, he sought to strip the wills of the rest and make them, in his eyes, pure. The Cullings. After being made vice-regent of the newly annexed Rosarian territory, the Empress Annabella quietly established a host of loyal imperial soldiers, the Black Shields, to maintain order. Though branded as keepers of the peace, their true purpose is to carry out what has come to be known as Cullings, or brutal massacres of Providence bearers and those who show them sympathy. The killing is swift and indiscriminate, with the shields dispatched serving as judge, jury, and executioner, and the chaos left in their wake is usually enough to deliver entire settlements to ruin. The Deluge of Blood. A great war that occurred in ancient times between the few who bear the blessing and the many who do not. It ended in decisive victory for the unblessed masses in the signing of the Continental Accord, which cemented the systematic subjugation of the bearer minority. It was not until 100 years later that the first icons were to emerge, the humans hosting being named Dominants. After the savior myth of the Circle of Malice, which held that the Lord's return would be heralded by the appearance of his heavenly servants, most wondrous and most dominant. Such was the awesome power of these creatures that the authorities had no option but to exempt them from the system of slavery, announcing them to be something other than a lowly bearer and deserving of the highest honor, lest they should side with their fellow oppressed and bring a second deluge upon the masters' heads. The Founder. Fear and uncertainty reigned in those early years following the sins of Desamekis. Not wanting to further incur the wrath of the heavens, the few who survived the fall took into wandering the land, spurning magic and staying to the shadows, and so they lived for decades. One man, however, grew tired of this life, if it could be called that, and after bidding his companions farewell, climbed a grassy knoll overlooking a forest, beach, and altar. Here he gathered a pile of rubble and used it to build a humble shelter, in which he spent the night. The next morning, however, instead of abandoning his work, as was his people's wont, he gathered more rocks, adding to the structure, until the shelter had become a shack. This he continued for days and weeks, until the shack had become a home. At first, those few wanderers who passed the knoll would shun him, cursing the man under their breaths for his hubris. But as his estate grew, and one building became two, and two, three, the people began to slow their steps, and it was not long before someone took to joining him on that knoll, gathering stones, building new lives, new destinies. This is what they did without magic machines, without boon or blessings. They relied on naught but their hands, their backs, and their wills, and each other. And slowly, house gave way to village, village to town, and town to nation. The man would one day die, as all men do, but those who remained continued his legacy, expanded upon it, and though his name was eventually forgotten, his spirit lives on this day, to this day, in the hearts of all Rosarians. The ancient mural. Basic information. A wall painting founded in the depths of the apotry under Phoenix Gate. Who created it, and for what purpose is unknown, but the celestial being in the center suggests some connection to a long-lost religion. A religious image. Ancient mural. A religious image found across fallacy, not only in the apotry under Phoenix Gate, but in the comrade near the heart of Drake's Breath, but upon a tapestry in Tower 2. It depicts the icons arranged in adoration of a central figure believed to be Ultima, the god, and that rules above them all. A mural intact. A religious image of the Circle of Malice, an ancient faith that worshipped Ultima. It depicts the icons arranged in adoration of a central figure thought to be Ultima himself, the god that rules above them all. The image is found across Valisty, but it was only one encountering a fully intact copy deep beneath ash that Joshua discovered that the phoenix does not appear among the icons depicted. Hidden truths. A religious image of the Circle of Malice, an ancient faith that worshipped both the Mother Crystals and Ultima. It depicts the icons arranged in adoration of a central figure thought to be Ultima, the god that rules above them all. Joshua discovers an unblemished version in the depths of Valuta, stronghold of Galgahorn, and learns that the figure thought to be Ultima is in fact that of Ifrit Ryzen, Ifrit and the Phoenix united as one. The Savior myth. Among the teachings of the Circle of Malice is the story that the Lord Almighty delivered into his children a prophecy of their future salvation before hiding himself away in the heavens. A myth that lived on in many of the folk religions that would later supplant it. Though long considered to be naught but a legend, it is possible that this reflects a real historical event. Ultima's final words to humanity before he entered hibernation deep beneath Valisty. The few remaining sources disagree on Ultima's precise wording, but on 4 points they all align that on some day, future day of reckoning, the incarnation of the Lord would appear among mankind and remake the world, that the advent of his incarnation would be heralded by the emergence of several heavenly servants of great might, that the Lord's faithful should rally these servants together in order to bring the incarnation into being, and that for their loyalty they will be rewarded with the greatest gladness. Beastmen, a somewhat derogatory nomen given the collective group of demi-humanoid beings that includes goblins, orcs, minotaurs, and others, Beastmen tend to differ from the most wild creatures in demonstrating a distinct intelligence, possessing the capacity for spoken and sometimes unwritten language, as well as complex tool building, and many have developed unique, albeit simple, civilizations of their own, with civilization, however, will always come to the desire to expand, and it is this ambition that has resulted in countless clashes with humanity over centuries. Beast. Animals whose evolution has been warped by exposure to ether, some gaining the ability to cast magics. Unlike bears, however, they seem to have developed little ethereal tolerance, so it is uncommon to encounter Akashic beasts in the vicinity of ether floods. While beasts are sometimes tamed by humans for use in warfare, the soldiers at Sanbreque have a particular fondness for those descendants of ancient dragons. Great Beast. The behemoth and Fenris of the realm, large dangerous beasts to whom all others bow. These creatures ruled for generations as the kings of great forests or tall peaks, only to be driven from their homes by the blight and forced into unwelcome contact with humanity. They tend to have little tolerance for ethereal exposure, so it is common for them to turn Akashic on the merest contact with an ether flood. Echoes. Basic information. Strange clockwork constructions often encountered in the fallen ruins. The question of whether or not they are truly alive is open to debate, as they do not appear to require water, nor do they feed on the flesh of their victims as beasts do. It seemingly exists solely to protect their habitat from intruders. All echoes are encased in protective plating that is made from the same material as the ruins and thus cannot be destroyed, though repeated blows will cause individual places to dislodge, eventually causing the entire construct to collapse on itself. Awakening. Strange clockwork constructs often encountered in fallen ruins. The question of whether or not they are truly alive is open to debate, as they do not appear to require water, nor do they feed on the flesh of their victims as beasts do, seemingly existing solely to protect their habitat from intruders. Though it is widely assumed they are vestiges of the fallen civilization, some of the structures they preside over, such as the apothecary and the sanctuaries at the heart of the mother crystals, seem to predate even that bygone age. In the aftermath of Primogenesis, beneath the black skies that follow, they emerge from the ruins at last, and can now be wandering the entirety of Valisthi. Hidden truths. Strange clockwork constructs often encountered in and near fallen ruins. They were only ever found protecting such structures, but in the aftermath of Primogenesis, beneath the blackened skies that follow, they emerged from the ruins at last, and can now be seen all over Valisthi. Though widely assumed to be vestiges one of the fallen civilization, it seemed they were in fact originally servants of Ultima, created by him in a time lost to memory, that it was only over long years of scavenging wreckage from the fallen ruins that they took on their current form. Since Ultima's reawakening, they have been guided by his will and his will alone. Aegis. Dating back to antiquity, the term Egi has historically been used to describe those ethereal entities that can be conjured by dominance. Aegis are capable of casting potent magics corresponding to the element aligned of their creators. Though unquestionably formidable, they will fade immediately after the dominant who gave them being happened to been slain. Ultima's Thralls. Masked. Twisted glowing blue creatures that awaited Clive and Jill deep within Phoenix Gate to try and prevent them from gaining the innermost recess of the apothecary. Unmasked. Soullessness automata, largely composed of ether whose only drive is to see that their creator's will is done. They appeared all over Valisthi after Ultima brought about Primogenesis, and the skies of the realm fell dark. Hidden truths. Soullessness of automata, largely composed of ether whose only motivation is to see that their creator's will is done. Ultima gave them life upon first arriving in Valisthi, and immediately tasked them with defending the realm's shores from any outside forces that might seek to interfere in his endeavors. The deity now employs them solely to test the strength and durability of his self-proclaimed vessel, Mutos.